Thank you very much for the invitation and the floor accorded to the ITUC. We are today discussing a very emotive issue, the emotive issue of crisis versus the lives of ordinary people, so to speak. My speech is against the backdrop or background of the statistics available, which may be correct or which may be wrong, subject to your own real situation. The statistics which tell us that in November 2012, the Greek Parliament passed measures which were to deal with the austerity of 9.4 billion euros, of which 7.6 will be achieved through salary and pension reductions. The plans also include the cutting of jobs, primarily in the public sector. It is also calculated on the anticipation that the economy will shrink by 4.5%, and national debt will hit 190% of GDP by next year, which is much higher than in March when the bailout was first agreed. It is common knowledge, according to statistics, that 5 billion is required for repayment of existing loans this week to avoid default. According to press reports, it is also said that currently the government is struggling to come up with the resources to make this payment. It is a fact that, yes, agreements have been arrived at or will be arrived at in Brussels, where the finance ministers will agree to the budget and agree to assist Greece, but the ministers are still not ready to approve the next tranche of Troika loan that Greece desperately needs. It's a fact. Given that background, and according to ITUC Global Survey and Global Report, which is available on our website, social and political tensions have reached extreme levels. Austerity measures and draconian labor law reforms have failed everywhere where they have been introduced. We don't know whether they will succeed in Greece. 87% of the respondents in the ITUC global poll think that their country is going the wrong direction. Nearly all of 97% respondents of the ITUC global poll rated the economy as bad. It is common knowledge and common cause that numbers of this magnitude are associated with countries at war. We don't know whether we are saying we collectively in Greece are at war, but that's the reality. The radical labor law reforms forced on the country by the Troika have destroyed centralized and collective bargaining and abolished employment security. One would be tempted to think that maybe we have agreed or we are towing the line of modern day slavery. Are we saying that we acquiesce to the situation of slave wages within country? And according to this report again, this approach by the government through austerity is against International Labour Organization Convention, particularly Convention 98, right to organize and collectively bargain. And therefore, we are going against the grain of international laws. That's a fact. And it is also a fact that it is assumed from our own kindergarten perspective that with the with the collapse of the economy, consumption from the ordinary people will also drop. Our view and our position as Labour has been that it is workers in work who will drive countries out of recession. But from austerity, it is always and normally the reverse. That it is believed that through austerity, workers should get out of work in order for countries to recover. Pitted against the above, and in Greece in particular, 90% of the poll respondents in Greece said they are unable to save any money, which means that 90% believe that they are unbanked. They cannot save any money. They cannot, therefore, plan for the future. And what do we need to happen given the above scenario? If we had our own way, as ITUC, we would need an urgent decision for a debt freeze with time to meet fiscal targets. That's point number one. Point number two, we needed a deliberate policy to invest in jobs, particularly public sector jobs. We also needed a restoration of collective bargaining rights in order for the workers and the working families to decide and have a say in terms of their own conditions related to the sacrifice they are putting in terms of the sweat. And there is need for the increase of the social protection, particularly social protection flow. Without social protection flow, no matter we come with the solutions from the moon, the more we offload people into the wilderness and faced with the vagrants of the adjustment which has not been properly planned, the more the government will face problems. And it is our belief that failure to do what we have just recommended in a nutshell, generally it has been observed that austerity measures the world over have created elastic societies where the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. I'm sitting with the professors here. Some of you may know that from a physical science point of view or chemistry point of view, elastic will stretch to elastic limit, into plasticity, plastic limit, and there will be a snap. And therefore, any government, any politician who would admire the elasticity, hoping that solutions will come from somewhere, the situation will come to a situation of breaking point and therefore anarchy. Do you want that in Greece as a nation? To avoid that, there is an element of us declaring that we don't need to subcontract the solutions to anyone else apart from ourselves. No one but ourselves will come up with solutions. Yes, ideas may come from everywhere, every corner of the world, but the solution lies in country. And therefore, we need to organize, and as ITUC, we always say, don't mourn, organize. That's point number two. Strategy number two is don't mourn, organize. Strategy number 3 is don't mourn, organize. Organize at the workplace, organize in society, organize parties from democratic persuasions in order for you to demand a space on the table. It is one thing to be consulted. It is one thing to input through policy position papers, but the other thing to be on the table where decisions are made. Are we on the table in terms of policy formulation, policy implementation, and policy evaluation? If the answer is no, time is now for us to demand that space, not only as workers from where I come from, but from communities and all the forces for democratic dispensation. Because austerity measures, believe you me, in my last submission, have always created jewel and enclave economies the world over. Economy for the poor and economy for the rich. But it is known, I think we have economists here, that capital is generally a coward. When things are hard, they fly away. There is capital flight. And I hear that there are SMEs in Greece, and normally they stay put. But when investment in terms of regenerating or economic re-engineering is decided, the target of benefits from austerity is the formal economy. But the formal economy would have deserted the scenario during hard times. I am saying this with experience from my country in Zimbabwe, where when we faced serious problems, economic meltdown, where for the first time I heard a figure of sextillion as a figure in terms of monetary denomination, or quintillion. I had never heard that figure when I was still at school. We had no capital to talk about. It was the informal sector that was running the economy. But when measures were put in place to re-engineer or regenerate or refocus the economy, the target was the formal economy, and the informal economy was the loser. Can we come up with a deliberate policy to also include the informal economy, which targets the ordinary people? Because they always say, according to my colleagues who have been to school further than I did, that the poorest of the poor are the experts in poverty. Whatever you do, wherever you are, in whatever situation, when you want to find solutions for the poor, can we please have a deliberate approach to include the poor in terms of input? Once we do that, I think we'll come up with better solutions than computer-generated solutions, because a computer will always come up with an answer. I thank you.